Man, welcome back to another episode of the Think Successfully Room. This is the platform where we focus on building mindsets, we building character, bringing value to both you and your people, and we aligning your body with your intelligence. I'm your host, QB So effing amazing. Now, Vienna Moss. Again, appreciate you for hopping on this video call. So I don't want to do your introduction for you, but could you tell me and the audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I went to school and have degrees in biomedical engineering, mechanical engineering. I have an MBA, and now I run a company called Politics. We're a nonpartisan political education company.
Okay. So speaking of Polyquids, now, I guess what is it a team of? Is it 6 or 7 of y'all?
Yeah, so we have 3 co-founders, and then we have another person who's amazing, our COO. He's been on since the beginning. We have 2 pretty much full-time volunteers who are also, been around since the beginning. And then we have a really great team of advisors, volunteers, interns. So altogether, it's about 20. It's a pretty big team. And, it's really encouraging because there are so many people that just want to work on this and really make a difference in the world.
Okay, so I did read the bio of Polyquids, and I thought it was pretty interesting as far as where you guys were taking the platform as far as providing a resource where people can go to really gain I guess information to because it I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. So when you vote for someone, whether that's Harris or whether that's Trump, a lot of times people don't know exactly why they are voting for somebody. They just know they don't like this person, they don't like this candidate, but don't really have enough information gathered to really, really dictate their decision. So as far as Polyquids, I guess what exactly, like how did that come about? Like was it personal experiences, like what really drove y'all to create a platform like Polyquids?
Yeah, so personally within my family, we have a no politics, no religion rule at family gatherings because before that rule is implemented, there would be a lot of fighting.
Mhm.
It typically looks something like someone in my family would pull up an article and say, "Can you believe this happened?" And someone else saying, "That didn't happen." And it turns out it's really hard to get to the bottom of the factual information. Like, sure, they can say, "Did you see this person said this?" And yeah, you could find the speech and maybe they did. But the context is so much more important. And so if it's something like, "Can you believe that so-and-so rejected this bill?" And then someone else says, "Well, the bill had all this other information." And then they send some kind of article that someone probably just wrote. I mean, anyone can write an article, right?
Yeah,
Or post a
yeah.
social media video. And often if we trust those people, it's really easy to believe that because you trust a lot of what they say, and normally what they say is pretty true, that you would believe this as well, rather than fact checking ourselves and thinking, does that really sound right? Does that align with what I believe? And that's what we found to be way more important. And so
Right.
one of my co-founders, when he was in college, his senior project, he was he wanted to match people based on stances rather than political affiliation. So instead of going into the polling location and just picking, let's say you're an independent, picking all independents, he said, why don't we have people take a quiz and figure out if those people are really representing them? And it becomes really important at the local level because I don't know about you, but it's really hard to remember a lot of names. And so when you get in there and you're looking at, mayor and clerks and things like names you've
Yeah.
never seen. And if normally you vote along a party, what if 2 people are the same party? Or what if they're undeclared? Some states, they don't have to put a party affiliation. And so then it makes it really difficult to want to be, a part of the electorate or somebody who's really making, impactful decisions because you don't know. Some of us fear that our vote doesn't count. And at the federal level, I know that's a pretty big fear, but some people are worried that they're making the wrong decision. And we hear that a lot. And so we don't want people to feel like they can't participate in civic duties or civic engagement because it feels like they might make a wrong decision. There's no reason to have a wrong decision. We should just have that information. And then even my third co-founder, she grew up in a family that their culture and religion is really strong. And so they just don't really have these conversations. So she knows who her family likes to vote for and what they kind of feel. And generally she grew up feeling the same way. And then as she got older, and I had a similar experience with my family, I would say, why do you believe this? It doesn't mean I don't believe it. I just want to understand. And we found that there wasn't always a good basis. And I think that if nothing else, if you want to win an argument with your family or, be able to learn more, I think it's really important to know where to go for that information. And it turns out a lot of information goes into that. So, you want to be able to look at things like their speeches and their voting history and their funding sources, and to do all of those individually for even just one race, like just the presidential election, it's a ton of work. And so now going and doing that for, I don't know, your mayor, yeah, maybe there's some information, but it's usually pretty lackluster. And then if somebody is, I don't know, running for something even more or less common, you go in there and you look and you're like, okay, well, they have a Facebook page. That's not really valuable, and that's not going to help me make my decision. So we do a lot of that work to really gather that information and provide it so people can just show up to the poll, unsure of who they want to vote for, and come out feeling like they're really confident in the decision they made.
Right. First, appreciate you for that explanation. That was a lot that people need to hear, mainly because it's like with my family, they do get out and vote, but again, it's when it was Trump and there was Biden, they voted for Biden strictly because they just didn't like Trump. But I used to always ask the question, well, why don't you like Trump? You know what I'm saying? Not saying you wrong for not voting for him, but like I do want to hear an explanation of why you not voting for him. Like what drove you to say, I don't like Trump, I don't want to vote for Trump? Like give me some type of reason why you don't want this person and you better choose this person over him.
Right.
So with probably quick. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. And we want to encourage these conversations because they're important. I often say, if you were to go and say the Atlantic Ocean is the best ocean in the world, right? Like you wouldn't even know you should have an opinion on that. Should you? I don't know. But if people don't talk about those things, you have no idea. And so I think it's important to be able to have these really fact-based conversations. And you can disagree and you can say, if the issue is, I don't know, taxes, and you're like, I think this, and this person thinks this, but we're talking about it factually and understanding truly why they feel that way. That's how we become not necessarily better arguers, but it doesn't hurt us, but more so we become more educated in our own beliefs and understand why we might believe things more, and not just because, this representative, you don't need to align with your representative. That's part of, the freedom of America. You can feel whatever you want. You can agree with your representative on 9 out of 10 things and still support them as the candidate and vote for them. But you could still say, but I don't like that they do this one thing. And that's okay. You don't need to be seen as somebody who, hates your party or hates your representatives. You're just, understanding your opinions better, which I think is really, really important when, you do get to go and vote and you get to use your voice, and you might realize that there's somebody else out there. And I think that, we work with high schools and colleges and all different people. And one of my favorite things to ask is how many people are running in the presidential election. And, most people say 2. And in our app, we have 5. And so, a lot of people download the app and they're like, oh my gosh, there are 5 people running for president. I didn't even know I could vote for these people. And yeah, sure, they might not vote for them, but just being aware of who's out there and what they believe, and if they more closely align to you, is information that we believe people should have. I mean, that's very, very basic information that seems like it should be really, easy to find, but instead the media outlets are just posting over and over the same 2 people with, really hateful things.
You just taught me something. Like that's all I see is just it's 2 people. I didn't know it would be it's other people you can vote for. So my question I have for you, just based off hearing that amazing explanation, is, do you feel like a lack of common identity as far as like politics, do you think that ultimately divides us as people?
Definitely. And I think it's one of the things that makes me most disappointed. For example, we ask our candidates and representatives in the app for their stances. And some candidates are really great and they provide their stances and we have a lot of information on them. And some of them, we had one, for example, this is one of my favorite stories because it was so representative of what I think a lot of people feel. And so we called a candidate and said, hey, can you tell us your top 3 issues? And he told us the 3 issues. And we said, could you provide a stance for each? And he said, yes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have that matching feature, and it's just one of the features in the app, but it's really integral to the overall product. And so we need these stances. And so users answer about 15 questions. You can do the quiz in like 2 minutes. It's super, maybe 5 minutes if you're really, really thorough, but it's a quick quiz.
Yeah.
And the candidates, we ask the same 15 questions plus another 30. So we're asking them, for example, the first question is about abortion. It's a pretty, heavy topic. Then we ask 2 sub questions to the candidates. So the users just answer a broad question. Candidates answer more. Once you match with them, you can see all of the races and their rankings in order of, how closely you align with them. And then when you click into each issue, such as abortion, you can see their answers to those nuanced topics. You can see, okay, well, maybe I agree with 3 different people on abortion, but it looks like only 2 of them agree with me on those subtopics. And so we called this candidate and we start reading these questions, and we get to one of the topics, and he keeps, at first he's answering questions really nicely and giving us lots of information. And mind you, also, this is someone that works for him in his office. It's also not the candidate. You normally can't speak to them, and they're very hard to find their contact information. So, it's already like a big win that we're talking to somebody, and we're pretty excited about it. And then we ask a question about one of the top 3 issues that he had earlier identified. And he said, oh, I can't answer that. And we said, it's one of your top 3 issues. Like, you can't give us a quote. You can't give us anything. And he said, oh, no, it's on our website. And we get that a lot. And I think that the fact that, candidates and politicians, which they hate that word, but candidates and elected officials don't always, they're not very forthcoming with their stances all the time. And we find that some are, and we really appreciate that. But it makes it hard to trust someone who's making decisions on your taxes if they don't give a concrete stance on taxes. And sure, they don't want to lose, but we're also, I think that it's very important to be, very clear with your stances. And if people don't vote for you, it's because they don't agree. And maybe that's just the city you live in or the district you live in, and it's unfortunate. But I don't think that, hiding some of your stances or layering them into a politically jargoned kind of sentence is really helping people. And so here we are on the other side fighting about things that are really not super clear in the first place. And I don't think that politics is something that is easy to talk about by any means, just like religion with my family. But I think that people do have a lot of growth personally and in their communities by being able to have these conversations. And last thought on this, recently we've had a lot of conversations with schools, and they talk about how school board meetings have just become these like chaotic fields for people to just, unleash all of their feelings. And, I think that people that attend school board meetings want the best for their kids. Everybody does. What that looks like for their child and for their family, of course it's different, but not being able to have a civil conversation about it isn't helping anybody. And so, I hope that we get to a point in the world where people can use our app and other resources and just talk about the facts and very, civilly have a conversation and say, yeah, I don't agree with you on that. I think that we should have potholes every other foot and never put any money into roads. And that's my opinion. And you could think that's ridiculous, because it is. But, if you think that's ridiculous, then to just be able to say, okay, well, let me understand why you think that that's not important. And maybe I say, I don't have a car. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You never use the roads. And so I think that just having that kind of discourse is so important to democracy, and we've really gotten away from it. And we just, I think that sometimes we fight for fun.
Yeah. But I feel like if you're gonna fight or you're gonna have a debate, at least know why you having this debate. That's strictly important. A lot of people engage in these debates and don't even know what they're talking about, or don't even know why they are debating. They just, I'm going with this person, you going with that person, and then a fight just happened. So with polyquicks, what's the sources or the resources that you guys have within the platform? Is these coming, I guess what makes these resources credible? Like, how do you guys go about the process of making sure that the resources is credible?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's our most common one, because we do say that we use AI, which is true. And I think that can naturally scare people a little bit. So we're not a news app. We're very different from a news app. News and other journalistic outlets, they take information that they're given and cover stories. There's often inherent bias. And so we wanted to stay away from that. So we have 5 tabs within the app. And the first one is the home feed. And that one, you get 6 to 7 items a day. and it's curated to you. So when you first onboard, you pick at least 3 topics of interest to you, and there's all the major topics that people tend to care about, and then you're able to follow things like bill action. Pretty strong, or I guess there's not really a debating point on whether a bill was passed or not, right? Like I think we all can agree that if a bill was passed, it was passed, and now you can read it. There's an AI summary. It's something really exciting, and we're actually just launching the home feed this week, probably by the time this comes out. It may be out by then. So we're really excited about that. And there's some polls and quizzes, and so just factual information. Our search tab is where the majority of the AI is embedded. But throughout the app, we use things like Congress APIs, and we have partners that provide our data for things like Supreme Court cases and ballot measures. So, these and polling locations, these are things that are just inherently factual, and there's really no debate. When we do use an AI summarizer and our special sauce, we have somebody review it. So we have political science interns. We also have advisors on our team. We have some elected officials who are partnered with us too, on both sides, all sides, everywhere in between. And they review the data and they look at it and they say, this could probably be worded a little bit more nonpartisan. And we say, okay, yeah, we'll do that. For the most part, though, we find that we've trained our system very well. And overall, even just our review of it, we get a pretty good understanding of if something will appear that way. But it's a big challenge because no matter how nonpartisan you are, people will always, look at something and say, well, why did you choose to put, this person above this person? Or why did you choose to phrase it this way where it looks a little bit negative towards something else? And we say, well, on the next slide, you'll see that it's kind of slanted the other way, because there are things that you just cannot fully remove people's impression of bias, even if it's not really there.
I like that. So okay, so if it's a situation to where, I guess, let's say there is a debate happening, right? And there are strong opinions about a particular topic. So they are able to pull up polyquicks and maybe reference or fact check what's being said. I guess to help make the conversation or the debate more respectful.
Yeah. And so, when I'm debating or having, and I think now that I run a nonpartisan app, I have fewer of those conversations because I don't want to come off like I'm super biased in one way. I really try to maintain a nonpartisan lens through everything. And so usually when I'm debating with someone or having a conversation, I really try to just learn from it. And so I spend less time trying to prove that I know more than they do, or that I'm right, and more so like, why do you feel this way? And, I really can't understand if we both look at this bill together, how do you get that conclusion? And I try not, you try not to be condescending about it, because it's, sometimes you're like, I've read the same thing and that doesn't look like that to me. But generally, if there was, if you're having a conversation about a topic, you can look up the history of kind of how we got to that point. And this is pretty much everything. We cover, sports funding in schools. Maybe there's a debate about that you could have. It's probably not the most common one that most people have. But, you can look in and see bills associated with that and things that have kind of led us to where we are. You can see representatives involved. So if somebody is, if there's a speech or some representative posts something on their X account, and it's like, I've been very involved in education funding. And then you can go and look and see they've never done anything for education funding, in fact. So those are the kinds of things where you can very quickly fact check without, I think that generally we look at fact checking as like, if someone throws out a percentage, we want to make sure that it's right. And if they're 1% off, then we want to, go in on them. And I don't have a great memory. I'd probably mess up a few times, but I think the more important thing is the sentiment. If somebody is insisting that they do a lot in this area, then go and check it. Or if they're saying that this is their belief on something, does their voting history really support that? And those things I think are much more impactful than whether or not it was 23 or 24% of blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Polyquicks is I'm sorry. When I came across this, this is actually a tool that I'm gonna be using as, for myself as well, to become more informed as far as what's happening. When we talk about politics, and then I'll be sharing this platform as well. But other than that, I think you pretty much told me everything that I wanted to know. You pretty much answered my questions before I even had a chance to get to them, and I appreciate you for that. Uh, Vienna, is it anything you want to share for the audience to, as far as anything else that's coming up, any project that you guys got going on?
Yeah. So, with the general election coming up, there's a lot of focus on that, which adds to the noise of everybody kind of being in this space is frantically trying to, get the word out. And I think that the thing for us that makes us unique is that because we have so much local coverage, and will soon have even more, it's something that, we want people to know they can use this year round, all the time. We have a Duolingo feature in the app that's, it's a Learn tab. And so you can, become more educated. So without too many spoilers, the very first one is about roads and trains. And as you're answering it, you might think, what does this have to do with politics? But it builds. And so the next one then has a little bit more, and these are released about weekly. The next one has a little more information about how these roads and trains now relate to public funding. And then, how you could go to a town hall meeting or city council, and be involved in these conversations. So things aren't just happening to you and you wonder, why is this happening? I didn't even know I could have a say in that. So I think that, that's something we're really excited about. We're partnering with a lot of schools right now, especially high schools. We do workshops and webinars for colleges, communities. We work with local political offices. So right now we're really in a big, partner phase. So as we meet people, pretty much everyone who has interest, we're like, hey, do you have a upcoming event? And I think that that's kind of I know you mentioned in our previous correspondence a little bit about, the business owner kind of experience and the women in STEM and all of that, and maybe less related to being a woman. But from the business perspective, it's all these people say they're interested. And so we say, hey, do you know anyone that would want to workshop? It's, it's a big election coming up. And even if not right now, then we know that, the next school year is coming up and other local elections are coming up. There are a bunch of elections coming up in 2025 and 2026 that, we're tracking. And so it's exciting to see. I think that admittedly, even myself who wanted to run for president when I was younger, I think that I didn't even understand nearly the local impact, like at all, until I started working on this app. And I was like, wow, there's a lot that happens at the local level that I think that it didn't seem relevant to me when I was learning it in school. And then I just never really thought to look back into it. And so I thought that I had a pretty good political understanding, but definitely not like I do now.
Yeah. So, and I could tell you, so are you, well, obviously you stay up to date on what you can on a daily basis, because you're very knowledgeable when we talk about politics. You had mentioned something as far as your memory not being that good when we were discussing numbers, but your memory pretty fine to to me, like just the way that you speak. And is MOTT. I was saying MOTT. Is it Vienna MOTT?
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying MOTT. My apology.
Oh, no, I missed it. I get that a lot. And I often don't listen when someone says my name, which is terrible.
Okay. Well, appreciate you. That was a very informative episode. Again, whenever once this episode drop, I will be dropping the link to Polyquicks, because I feel like everybody that votes needs this resource to actually dig more into, as far as like gathering information. Like I said at the beginning, gathering information to really have an understanding on why they voted for the person that they, the candidate that they're voting for. So definitely appreciate y'all for what y'all doing.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for, everyone to find the way that Polyquicks works for them. And if they use it to help pick candidates, or they use it to fact check themselves, or just to do our polls and quizzes, or the Duolingo Learn tab, however they want to use it, I think that that'll be the most interesting thing. We get statistics from how long people spend on different pages, like all apps do. And so I'm excited to see what people really find to be the most valuable. And hopefully we can continue to, build those partnerships and grow our data on our app and be the next big, I don't know, Google for politics or something like that.
Yeah. Y'all definitely gonna be big. Cause okay, this is my last question. how many sources do you have right now? Resources within the app. Are you able to come off top with exactly how many outlets you guys use?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
How many resources do you guys? How many out? I'm not sure if I'm wording it right, but how many outlets or how many resources do you guys use within the app already? Or is that more like an algorithm? Is that more like an AI type of thing?
Like our partners, we have.
Yeah, so partners, yeah, exactly.
Let me count that because I would need to think. We use about 5 for data sources. I think 6 now actually, and then we have maybe about 10 partnerships that we have established for either data or like shared social media representation. And we're currently in an accelerator right now too. So we are getting ready to fundraise. So that will be fun because we're entirely bootstrapped and funding it ourselves right now. And we know that bringing us to that next level will help us, achieve things much more quickly.
Okay, cool. Appreciate you again, Vienna. Is it possible that we can stay in touch to further discuss anything on the political level?
Yeah, certainly. And I can add you to our email list too, because we have a newsletter you can subscribe to on our website, but we send out updates with everything that we're doing so people can get a little bit more of a behind the scenes on, what it's like to run the business and really work through those daily challenges. We think that that's been, and even our TikTok account right now, I've been doing a lot of videos about my experience and, my very first time pitching, it was so bad compared to where it is now. And, you just learn so much. And I think that it's not straightforward to start a business. There's not really a great checklist out there. Like there are some, but they're not great. And so we've really been trying to be, open and honest about how we get our data, how we started our business, what it's like to, on a day-to-day basis, what it's like to be rejected. Like nobody likes being rejected and you get it all the time. And so, it's really, I think a lot of people are enjoying following along and seeing more of the honest inside and not just, yeah, look at our app. We built it. It's great. There are days that are really frustrating and there are days that are really great. And there's a lot of ups and downs and it's a really cool experience. But I think, I do a lot of mentorship, and whenever I talk to younger people, I'm always saying, find a mentor and let them help you because they want to. And, I made a lot of mistakes getting to where I am at this point, and I'm not even that old. I don't think, the high schoolers that we work with think that I'm old, but, I don't think I'm that old, and I've learned so much. And just knowing that I could have had a shortcut by, having somebody kind of say, oh no, don't start an LLC. That's a terrible idea or whatever, that would have been really helpful. And my family, I don't come from anything like that. And so I didn't have that kind of advice. And it's just a huge learning process. And I think, if there's anyone that listens to this that has a need for a mentor or advice, my email, I can add it so you can put it on here, but I'm always happy to help out however I can. I think that giving back and sharing your knowledge is the best thing you can do. And being afraid of people, passing you or stealing your ideas is really, really silly. I'm trying to get people to want to participate in politics. Like, why would I gatekeep that, And so I really do try my best to anyone that calls me, especially if they're younger, I always answer and I try to really spend as much time as they need going through everything. I think that's really, really important.
Okay. Appreciate you for sharing that, Vienna. Thank you. So for myself, even if they don't, I'm a definitely stay in touch because again, politics is something that I need to dig further into, just to have the knowledge on what's going on in our country, and being a part of that newsletter will also help. So if I'm getting newsletters on a daily basis, weekly basis, or whatever the frequency is, then I know exactly what to discuss with you. The next time we have an opportunity to talk to one another.
Yeah, no, awesome. I appreciate it, and I'm glad that you're excited to use it. I can't wait to hear your feedback.
Okay, cool. Appreciate you. Well, without that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out there. Life is good. Right. Life is wonderful. Be blessed to be alive. Self-sufficiency is how you survive. To the kings and queens, to the gods and goddess, forever and always. Stay successful. Yeah.